All right, it is 7 o'clock. We are going to get started. Hopefully, you all can see my screen. Let me just make sure over in YouTube land, you all are able to see my screen. Hello, Miss Stacy. I hope you are doing well and you're ready to get this started today. Yay! Oh, it is busy CE season for me. So much teaching, but I don't mind. People need their CE so they don't lose their licenses, their continuing education, their Con Ed, and that is my job. So let's get started. Oh, yay, your test is scheduled for June 15th. Are you excited? I really hope you're excited. I do. I do. So, as always, if there's something that you want to see or, excuse me, that you want me to go over, we can do that. Sorry, I've been teaching a lot today. Mm. So had to grab some water. But let's just get into it. So, question 13. This is the questions. These are the questions we started the other day. This is going to be on agency and truth in lending and all those types of things. Under the Truth in Lending Act, TILA, what is the purpose of the annual percentage rate or the APR disclosure? We talked about this the other day. APR, we're talking about TILA and RESPA and TRID. But is it A, to show the borrower the exact total amount they will repay over the life of the loan? B, to give the borrower a standardized measure of cost of credit, including fees, to allow comparison shopping? C, to establish the maximum interest rate the lender may charge over the life of an ARM loan. Or D, to disclose the margin the lender adds to the index rate on an adjustable rate mortgage. All right, and you said our answer is B. That's what you said, Stacy, to give the borrower a standardized measure of the cost of credit, including fees to allow comparison shopping. Exactly. This is an actually a really great, let me change my colors here. Boo, boo, boo. This is a really great definition of what APR is. We know that your interest rate is what you pay annually. Usually it's quoted as an annual rate. But when that number is higher for the APR, it's because we're taking into consideration other things the person would have to pay, right? So nice job, Miss Stacy. Nice job. Number 14. Which of the following best describes the difference between a warranty deed, otherwise known as a general warranty deed, and a quitclaim deed? Which of the following best describes the difference? So, all right, let's see what we got here. A warranty deed transfers title only for the period the grantor owned the property, and a quitclaim deed transfers title for all prior periods. Well, we know that's not true. I mean, even just if we go with the back one, a quitclaim deed does not transfer title for all periods. Well, I should say it transfers title, but it doesn't cover. Let's say that. Does not cover or give protection for all of the time periods, right? So let's see B. A warranty deed includes covenants guaranteeing title against all claims. Okay, that's true. And a quitclaim deed transfers only whatever interest the grantor has with no guarantees. I like that. I do like that. That looks like that could be our answer. Let's try C. A quitclaim deed is used only for commercial property. Well, nope, that's not true. And a warranty deed is used for residential property. No, none of that is true. So we know it's not A, we know it's not C. And then we've got D. A warranty deed is recorded. A quitclaim deed is not recorded. Okay. We know we record deeds for protection. So the only possible answer is going to be B. A warranty deed includes covenants that guarantees title against all claims, and a quitclaim deed only transfers whatever interest the grantor has. And you know you're going to be tested on these. So, yay. Good job. Let's keep on rolling. Number 15. A zoning ordinance requires a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet. An existing lot of 6,000 square feet predates the ordinance. The owner wants to build. This lot is best described as. So an ordnance ordinance, it requires a minimum lot size of 10,000 square feet, and this lot is only 6,000 square feet and predates the ordinance, and the owner wants to build. Are we discussing this? Are we describing this as a non-conforming use, a variance, a legal non-conforming use, a non-conforming lot, or a conditional use? What are we thinking the answer's gonna be here? Now, I know when I am teaching, right? I usually tell people a legal non-conforming use and a just non-conforming use is they're kind of the same thing, right? I'm going to go ahead and eliminate A because it's a lot and that's a little bit better, but a legal non-conforming use, okay, fine. I'm going to eliminate one of those because they can't be the same. And I think a legal non-conforming use is a better answer, right? It it's more complete. But let's see, what about B or D? We know a variance would be when you go and you say, hey, your rule is causing a hardship, right? Now, mm, the owner wants to build. We're describing the lot. And right now, the lot isn't a variance. They would be asking for a variance. So I don't think it's going to be B. And a conditional use talks about different types of zoning when they say, hey, you know what, you can use it for this type of commercial, but not this other type of commercial. So it's not going to be D. I think by process of elimination, it's probably going to be C. I mean, B, you might ask for a variance. And non-conforming use, that's, yeah, but it's a non-conforming lot. That's what I would probably call that. Now, that's how I would go. Let me see if what this is what they said. Hello, Val. Hello, bestie. All right, we've got, yep, our answer is C. Now, it says in our answer choice here, non-conforming use refers to a use that predates the ordinance, not the lot's physical dimensions. So, yeah, they were really focusing in on we're describing this lot and saying, hey, it's a lot that is not the right size. If they want to build, they would ask for a variance, which is why this was not an answer. Whew, that one was tricky. I did tell, the AI to give us hard questions, and they did not disappoint. All right, let's do number 16. Which of the following items, which most likely be considered a fixture and therefore included in the sale of a home unless specifically excluded? Right. Oh, you sent me an email. I will check that out. It's just a little bit of crazy time with teaching continuing education, but I will look. Which of the following items would most likely be considered a fixture and therefore included in the sale of the home unless specifically excluded? Is it a freestanding refrigerator in the kitchen? Well, I mean, if it's freestanding, that means it's not attached to anything, and that would not be considered a fixture. So, We got B, a flat screen TV mounted on the wall with a custom bracket. Sounding pretty possible, maybe. C, window blinds on a tension rod. Well, they're blinds on a rod, which sounds like they are not permanently attached. I'm not going to just get rid of it quite yet. Let's see what else we got. D, a portable air conditioning unit plugged into an outlet. Well, D, portable, that eliminates that because we know fixtures are permanently attached to the property. And since these window blinds are also on a tension rods by definition, that's where, like, think of a shower rod where you push it in and then it pushes out and that tension is what holds it up. That would not be permanent. So I'd have to say C is not our answer, making B our answer, a flat screen television mounted on the wall with a custom bracket. We know when it comes to fixtures, it needs to be permanently attached, right? And if you have questions, if it's a judge or an attorney trying to help you decide whether or not it is going to be a fixture, you could memorize or use Maria, or sometimes it gets taught as Irma. but that stands for the method of attachment. We're talking about agreement. We're talking about the relationship between the attacher for Maria. We know intent. And then that last A is for if you have adapted it, how custom is it? So whether you use Maria or Irma, that's how judges decide if something is a fixture. But by definition, if you have a piece of real personal property that's been permanently attached to that real property, that is a fixture. All right. Number 17. A licensee acting as a dual agent must most importantly, so you're a licensee acting as a dual agent must most importantly A, disclose the dual agency to both parties and obtain written consent from each. Well, I mean, now that there is real important. I don't know of any state where you can be a dual agent and not get this. Anita, you said you passed your pre-licensing exam. Oh my gosh, Anita, I just saw that. Oh my goodness, congratulations. And you know that you get your song.
Good job, good job. Good job, good job. T-O-O-D-J-O-B. Good job, good job.
Hey, I'm so proud of you, Miss Anita, and you get my favorite.
My money don't jiggle, jiggle, it folds. I like to see you wiggle, wiggle, for sure.
I am so proud of you. You worked so hard to pass that test, and I could not be more thrilled. You put in the work, you put in the time, you put in the effort, and you studied. You have earned this license. So, yeah. I love it. And as you have questions as you're getting started, you know you can pop on it here. I prefer if you do it kind of towards the end if you're just going to ask that one question, although you can be here the whole time. But I will definitely want to be here as you build your business. So you can come back anytime and ask whatever questions you like. Oh, that is the news we love to hear. Yay. All right. Okay. See, you all are going to get this. You are going to get this. So let's try this again. Number 17, a licensee acting as a dual agent. Most importantly, I mean, you all can't even see the smile on my face. It's been the longest days of teaching CE lately and will continue. But that just put the biggest smile on my face. What's most important? Is it disclose dual agency to both parties? I mean, that's pretty darn important. Let's try B, represent the party who signed the agency agreement first. No. That's not how we choose what goes on with agency. Is it C, withdraw from the transaction and allow both parties to find other... No. Or D, disclose the dual agency only to the party who specifically asked about it. No, absolutely not. That gives us a final answer of A, disclose the dual agency to both parties and obtain written consent from each. You know you're going to have to get that consent in writing from both parties. I don't care what state you're in. So our answer is A. A nice job. All right, question 18. The Fair Housing Act prohibits discrimination based on which of the following protected classes at the federal level? Now, I see that we've got a list of words here, and these are one of these questions where I would tell you your best job, the best thing you can do is don't even look at the answer choices yet and remember your acronym. You know, I like to teach this as Fred's corn. We just took out the vowels. So we know F is for familial status. The R is for race. The D is for differently abled or disabled, and that's going to be both mental and physical disability. The sex is what the law says, but HUD has said we can cover sexual orientation and gender as well. Color, we got religion for the second R, and the last N is national origin and ethnicity. We know that acronym. So now we just have to find the matching answer. A says, well, they all say race, color, and race and color. So we know that's fine. And we see that the first three have national origin and the last one does not. So it can't be D, right? So we got race, color, national origin, religion. Yay, that means A, B, and C is still good. We got sex. All right. Then C stops at sex. We're still missing some letters, so it can't be C. sex, familial status, and then we've got they both have disability, and then sexual orientation. Hmm. It seems like those are really close, right? Race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, and disability. And then you've got and the sexual orientation in B. So which one do we choose, right? Which one do we choose? Now, it's very important we understand this. The actual law only says sex. And then HUD, Housing and Urban Development came through and said, yeah, we think you should include sexual orientation under sex, but it is not part of the specific law. HUD has made this recommendation. So because it's not as a part of the specific law, our answer is not B. Our answer is A. Race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, and disability. There you go. So they do and they can get really, really specific on these questions. We want to remember things like Fred's corn to make this easier to answering our test questions correctly. All right, let me grab some more water. Number 19, under RESPA. Remember, we talked about RESPA on Wednesday. That was one of the last things we went over. I did the breakdown on RESPA and TRID and TILA. So under RESPA, a kickback occurs when, is it A, a lender charges a higher interest rate to borrowers with lower credit scores? B, a settlement service provider gives or receives a fee for a referral that is not a bona fide service? C, a seller pays all of the buyer's closing costs as a seller concession? Or D, a buyer and seller agree to close earlier than the original contract date? All right, I see Val. You said it's gonna be B, right? I'm bringing home a baby, bumblebee. Won't my mama be so proud of me? All right, and I agree with you. I like B. This term, a settlement service provider gives or receives a fee for a referral. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's gonna be B. That is a kickback, and you cannot do that. In fact, the only reason we can get referral fees as real estate agents, so you all know I'm in Michigan. If I have somebody, and actually my brother wants to buy a house in North Carolina, I referred him to an agent. The only reason I can get that referral fee and it not be breaking RESPA is because there is an exemption for agent to agent referrals. But any other referral that I would get paid for, suggesting a service related to the real estate transaction, that would be the kickback, that would be illegal. I would be going to jail. And as you all know, I'd like to say nobody looks good in federal prison orange except Jason Momoa. That's our only hope. Okay. Question 20. A property owner grants a neighbor the right to cross their land to reach public land. There's a right to cross land. What do we call that? This right is best described as, is it an easement by prescription? Is it an easement appurtenant? Or is it a license? Or is it an easement in gross? These are all good vocab words, but I think we know that we can go ahead and eliminate C. Right? You're granting them a right. When you have a license, it's not a permanent right. You're giving them the ability to do something during a permanent time, but it can be taken away. Oh, Val, and you said, what is an agent to agent referral? So you know me. Well, let me finish this question and I'll come back to that. So it's not a license. Now we've got an easement, and an easement. Okay. So this easement, we know in general when it comes to easements. In fact, let me find what I'm looking for. I think it's easier instead of me trying to spell this all out for you. Let me see if I can find the drawing. This would be under my study guides. Where are my study guides? Oh, I'm just all in the wrong place. Study guides. Here we go. And I am looking for, Y'all, why is it so hard to find stuff? As organized as you would think my slides are. Why is this so hard? Do. All right, let's pull it up a different way. Beep. And no, come back here. Cutting. And then we've got this. And then we've got, what am I looking for? Here it is. Sorry, guys, that took a second. Boom. We are talking about easements. We had to let that join. And when it comes to easements, and let me clear this up for you. When it comes to easements, right down here, we've got two types of easements. Easements are either appurtenant or it's an easement in gross. An easement is either appurtenant or it's an easement in gross. And if it's an easement in gross, we know we've got two types of easements in gross. It's a commercial easement in gross, where it's going to be something like, there's train tracks, or there's, a sidewalk or something like that, where it's about the light or gas easement, something like that, a utility. That would be a commercial easement in gross. Or you can have a personal easement in gross, which is where somebody is giving, one person who owns land is giving another person the right to cross their land. Well, how is that different? An easement appurtenant, I like to say there's two P's in appurtenant, and two P's, right? That means there's two properties. This is where you saw, there was usually a drawing where here's a property and here's a property, but the road is right here. So property A says, hey, if you want to, property B, you can cross over my land. And I meant to change colors. You can cross over my land to get to the highway. When property A gives property B, the actual piece of property, the right to cross, that would be an appurtenant easement. Two P's, two properties. Separate than types of easements, what you have here is how easements are formed or why there's an easement. It could be an easement that's just written expressly, that's given. It could be an easement that's implied. So you have to have access to a public right of way. If I give you a property that's landlocked, I have to give you access. It's an implied easement, right? An easement by prescription is when you meet the requirements. Oh, I use this land, I crossed over it for 45 years. Now you're trying to say I can't cross it. Well, the courts would grant you an easement by prescription. And an easement by necessity is very similar to an implied easement. You need it. It has to be there. So that's how easements are formed. There's a difference when we talk about, an easement by prescription, an easement from necessity. That's why or how they were formed. Versus just in general, what is an easement? We got two different categories. Either it's an appurtenant easement or it's an easement in gross. So after that's review, let's go back to our question. The property owner grants a neighbor. The neighbor gets the right to cross their land to reach a public road. So is this going to be an easement by prescription, an appurtenant easement, or an easement in gross? We are not talking about two pieces of land. So it's not B. It cannot be an appurtenant easement. And an easement by prescription would mean somebody was using the land for a certain amount of time to cross. And then the court said, well, look, you've been doing this for so long, we're going to go ahead and just make it permanent. It's kind of like adverse possession, but for use of the land, not ownership. So it's not A either, which means our only answer, which matches up to what we just said, would be an easement in gross. What type of easement in gross? It would be a personal easement in gross. It would not be a commercial easement in gross. That would be a no. Right? Find a way to make it make sense to you. Some people, you all like to stop doing that thingy. It's because I'm in the right thing. Some people like to have, what do you call it? The visuals. Sorry, I know my brain is struggling. Oof, I've been teaching so much lately. Some of you all like visuals. And if that is the case, make sure you have a source of visuals and that those visuals make sense. Heck, you can ask AI to create a visual. That's something I did earlier today before I started. I need to look at that. Before I started teaching on my CE for hours today, I asked Notebook LM, which is an AI, to create me a visual for agency in case I needed it, if I needed to help a student taking continuing education with understanding the fact that we might lose the ability in our state to do dual agency. I could give you a visual. You could ask AI to do a visual, but if visuals help, just use it. AI is here to help. You might as well use it. And a lot of it is free at first. And if you need help with it, just ask. We've done that a couple of times in these classes. I've showed you how to use it. All right. Let's go back to our questions. So, question 21. Which appraisal approach is most appropriate for valuing a special use property like a church or a school? Which appraisal approach is most appropriate for valuing a special use property like a church or school? Is it the sales comparison approach? Is it the income approach? Is it the cost approach? Or is it the gross rent multiplier method? Well, I can eliminate two of these because both B and D are related. One of the methods in the income approach is the gross rent multiplier method. And we can't have the two answers here. So that's not it. Is it the sales comparison approach or is it the cost approach? Income approach would be if it's a property that makes money, but this is a church or school. Those don't make money, so it's not B or D. Sales comparison approach or cost approach? What are we thinking? You can go ahead and put it in the chat if you have an idea. But what I do know, and again, have a visual. I do have a visual for that as well. Sorry, don't mean to make you all seasick with things moving around. But if you've been with me for a while, you've seen my video, you've seen this before. This is a chart. This is the visual layout of how the appraisal process works. And you'll notice over here, I even have it laid out. What is the sales comparison approach used for? What is the cost approach used for? What is the direct income approach used for? And I said the direct income approach is for when you have a property that produces income. That's not our answer. It says here, sales comparison approach is for the only way to find the value of land and most residential and commercial properties. But the cost approach is used for unusual properties, something with inadequate comps. And to me, that sounds like it says a special use property with a church or school. You know what? That sounds to me like the cost approach. There's not going to be enough churches or schools that are similar enough that you would be able to use the sale comparison approach and get enough comps. This is all day, every day, the cost approach. Good job. Okay, number 22. Which of the following best describes blockbusting under fair housing laws? Okay. Which of the following best describes blockbusting under the fair housing laws? Well, we know we got two terms when it comes to stuff like this. There's blockbusting or there is panic peddling. That's not how you spell peddling. Boop. You can call it blockbusting or panic peddling. The other option would be steering. Now, we know steering has to do with buyers. This is where you decide as the agent, oh, somebody should or shouldn't live someplace based on one of the protected classes. If we're talking about blockbusting or panic peddling, this has to do with sellers. And this is where think of you're breaking up the block. You're literally telling people, hey, you heard Patriots fans are moving in. You don't want to be neighbors with the Patriots fans. You should move and move now, right? That would be it. Oh, and I forgot to come back to your question, Val, so I will do that now in a second. So now that we know what blockbusting and steering and panic pedaling are, let's see which answer best meets blockbusting. Is it A, refusing to show homes in certain neighborhoods to protected class members? No, that would be steering. Is it B, inducing homeowners to sell by making representations that members of a protected class are moving into the area? Now, in my example, Patriots fans are not a protected class, but you get the point. That sounds pretty good. But it does say best answer, so let's see what other options are. Refusing to make mortgage loans in certain geographic areas based on racial composition. Well, no, that would be redlining. That's not our answer. And D, steering buyers toward neighborhoods based on their race or national origin. Well, no, that's steering. We just said that. Making our answer once again B. B. Now, so you had a question. Val, you asked about the comparable sales. So yes, in the sales comparison approach, you know that you would have to have at least 3 good comps. At least 3 good comps in order to do the sales comparison approach. A lot of times, appraisers or agents doing CMAs need more than 3, but the bare minimum is 3. So I wanted to clear that up. And then the other question you had was, let me roll back. No, there's you asked what is an agent to agent referral, and I forgot to go back to it. So you know that I'm in Michigan. And my brother, officially known as Rat Boy, he is in North Carolina still. And my brother wants to move. I can't help him. I'm not there. He wants to buy. I'm not there. I can't help him. But there may be somebody at ABC Realty who can help my brother. What I do is I pick up the phone and I call this agent. Let's call this agent Pam. I call Pam and I go, hey, Pam, I have somebody who wants to buy and or sell their house. I don't want to do it or I can't do it, but I think this would be great business for you. I could give you my brother's name, whoever it may be, and then when you close, Pam, you need to pay me some of the money you made, some of the money that you made on closing this deal. Because I referred the business to you, you need to give me money. That is the idea of an agent to agent referral. I would be getting paid for simply picking up the phone and referring business to Pam. Pam would have a closing, and that is going to be considered a service provider that has to do with the housing closing. You cannot give monies for referrals of business when it comes to housing, except for agent to agent referrals. Within the law, there is something that says, you know what, real estate agents can give out referrals to each other. Real estate agents can also give and receive referrals from vacation. Well, I shouldn't say it. You know what? That's a North Carolina thing. So you can give, go ahead.
So that would be in the paperwork, Candace? Would
Yes.
it be in the contract?
I would
If
send, I
Mhm.
would send a referral agreement over
Okay.
to Pam, usually with my brother's name, and then Pam will sign that back, and then I'll give her my brother's contact information.
Gotcha. Okay.
And then when it closes, she can mail me a check. We call that mailbox money. It is awesome.
Yeah, I was like, that's pretty cool.
But you do have to have an active license to do it.
In either state, correct?
Some states don't have active or inactive status, but something current, like you need to be current with all the classes, you need to have paid, done everything you needed to do for that state. So yes.
Okay, that's cool. Nice little money chunk of change in your pocket.
Girl, it's a nice, because I will say I usually charge someplace between 25 and 30%. And that's not of what the agent, like the individual agent gets. I want what their brokerage is getting.
I know
So
that's
if we
right.
were just to do that math, let's just pretend my brother bought a house for, let's say, $330,000. And let's say there was a 5% commission which would be, where's my calculator? There it is. $330,000 times 5% commission. That would be 16,500. And
Mm-hmm.
let's say that got split between the listing agent and the buyer's agent. I'm going to divide that by 2. So
Right.
that's going to be a
8250.
total commission of $8,250. I
Mm-hmm.
would get, let's say, 25% of that. So 25% of 8,250.
That's $2,000, 2062.50.
Yep. $2,062.50. That amount goes to Candace
Yeah, that's
simply for
so
picking
nice.
up the phone and being like, hey, you want a deal?
Mm-hmm. But you have
That's
to
if
have the
I charge
agreement in writing,
25%.
right? But you have to have the agreement in writing for that to happen, right?
Yes, you need to
Okay.
have that agreement in writing. Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
And it was Pam's job, no matter what state you're in, it's Pam's job to make sure that I'm actually licensed. And if I have a
Gotcha.
broker, she would need to pay my broker, not me directly, but that's a whole different set of conversations. But yeah, those
Yeah.
are referral fees, and they're only legal because we
Mhm.
put an exemption in place as
Mhm.
part of RESPA.
That's pretty good. Okay. Thank you.
No problem. Great question. Not everybody understands how amazing referral fees are, but now I know you all do. We're, there are people who get licenses for I'm just going to do referral fees. I know a lot of people, they're always moving. I'm always suggesting they use a real estate agent. I want to get paid for this. I should get a license, get it. I can get referral fees. Literally, it's awesome. All right, back to our questions. Number 23, and a sip of water. In a title insurance policy, the insured is best protected against. So, in a title insurance policy, the insured, the person who has the policy, is best protected against. Is it A, future physical damage to the property from natural disasters? B, defects in title that existed prior to and at the time of policy issuance? C, future zoning changes that reduce the property's value? Or D, environmental contamination discovered after closing? What are we thinking for number 23? What are we thinking? Well, if you're thinking, no worries, Caroline, glad you're here. Just glad you're here. If you are thinking that our answer is B, then congratulations, you are correct. Remember, when it comes to title insurance, that's a policy for the new owner and another policy for the bank. Depending on what state you live in, that's going to tell you who's paying for it. In some states, the seller pays for the buyer to have a new title insurance policy. In other states, the buyer pays for their title insurance policy because it's theirs. Who's paying is not the question. But the goal here is to understand you've got two insured people, the owner, the new owner, and the bank. This is to protect you from anything that could be wrong with your house, title-wise, during the time you bought the house. Future physical damage to the property from natural disasters. That's right. This is regular home insurance. That's what you're saying. Hey, I want home insurance in case something happens. Future zoning changes that reduce the property's value. We just call that bad luck. Like, ish happens. D, environmental contamination discovered after the closing. I mean, that sounds like it would be good, but that's not the best answer choice, right? Oh, no worry, Trix. And you said your son's in baseball playoffs. Congratulations to him. Whoop, whoop. So it's not D either. It's not D. Our answer is B. We've had a lot of B's in a row here, but guys, don't freak out about that. That could happen on the test. Don't go running back and be like, there's no way we can have that many. It's just random. It's just random. I even put that into my request. Put it into my request for AI. I said, give me some random answer choices. All right, 24. A deed restriction prohibits the sale of alcohol on a parcel forever. A subsequent owner opens a bar. the proper legal remedy for a neighboring property owner who benefits from this restriction is. So a deed restriction, it prohibits no alcohol on this property, no sale of alcohol. Then a new owner opens up a bar. If you're the neighboring property and you like the whole new no alcohol thing, what do we need to do? What are we talking about here? Now, I see you all are saying C. You need an injunction to enforce the deed restriction, and you all are absolutely correct. Our answer is C. Why? Because we know lis pendens is notice of pending litigation. You got to sue for there to be litigation. We know eminent domain is the right of the government to take your property for fair market value. And then B, an action to quiet title. We're talking about, oh, there's a question about who owns this property. That's not what we're talking about here. We just want somebody to force, oh, that's not what I wanted to do. We just want somebody, and by somebody, I mean a judge, to enforce the rules as they currently are. You're asking for an injunction. Very good. Nice, guys. All right. Next question. Oh, before I go on any further, I know that on Wednesday, especially Caroline, I think that is the day before your exam. I know that you're going to have questions. However, and I said this earlier, June 10th is the culmination of continuing education here in North Carolina. Y'all have no idea how many hours I have been teaching lately. And I'm teaching one of the very last classes. In fact, as of last week, there were still 17,000 people waiting to get their CE done. And I'm teaching a class on Wednesday, 6/10, from 5 to 9 p.m. I am the last hope. So, because of that, I can't be here for our Wednesday. But because I know you are testing on the 11th, Caroline, we can do a couple of things. Your choice. I can try to meet with you sometime during the day on Wednesday. If you want to have a one-on-one that I can record for everybody and play it on Wednesday. Or on Tuesday night, I don't have a class Tuesday night. I can do 7 o'clock on Tuesday with everybody. So your choice, just let me know by the end so I can tell everybody. I might, if you want, I could do another live instead of doing Wednesday and doing a recording. I could come live on Tuesday night. Or if that doesn't work for you, we can try to find a time between now and you test when I'm not teaching continuing education, because I'm really mad at these 17,000 people for waiting to the last minute. Googly goo. We can try to find a time between my schedule and your schedule. I'll record it and I'll make that live. So just think about it. Let me know. All right. I will help them. Y'all, they stressing me out today. I was teaching and they claim they did not know. They claim they did not know their mic was on and they weren't talking to me, but they were like, this stupid ass, just imagine some bad words. And I was like, excuse me, are you talking to me? Are you talking to me? Because I'm not the one. Nor am I the two or your little friend. I will take this credit away from you and you will not be licensed. But he said he unmuted and he didn't mean to. He was talking to somebody in his house. He came real close. But there you go. So I try to hold it together. Call you, girl, it came. Okay, so I can do Tuesday. Why don't we do, so everybody knows that's watching, I will do Tuesday this week. Tuesday at 7 p.m. All my classes are earlier than that in the day, so I know on Tuesday I'm good. Tuesday, 7 p.m., that's going to be June 9th. 6/9. And that's going to be in honor of Caroline, who's going to pass this test. Oh, they don't know me yet. Oh, he figured it out real quick, y'all. He figured out real quick. I was like, I was like, excuse me? You don't need to talk to me over here. You need to talk to me over here. He was very apologetic. He was like, I'm so sorry. Because I'm pretty sure I had a look on my face that said, danger, Will Robinson. Okay, so Tuesday, 7 p.m., be there or be square. And Caroline and anybody, if you have anything specific that you want me to go over, let me know. Yes, so, yes, love it. Okay, next question. I was supposed to do this a sheet question. I'm going to erase this now so we can see our extra question. And then wish me luck. Hopefully, I still have a voice by Wednesday. We'll see how that goes. Which of the following best describes escheat? Right? You need to pass this and take Candace's. You are very welcome, mine. You know, y'all know I love doing this with y'all. Y'all know this. Mhm. Which of the following best describes the word escheat? Which is a fancy way of saying defined escheat. Right? Now, hopefully, you know escheat is one of the 4 powers of government. We know that is Pete, police power, eminent domain, taxation, and escheat. Eminent domain, taxation, escheat, and of course, I forgot police power. Those are our 4 powers of government. But what does escheat mean? Is it A? Is it the government's power to take private property for public use with just compensation? No, that is eminent domain. Great answer for another question, but it is not the right answer for this question. Is it B, the process by which property reverts to the state when an owner dies without heirs and without a valid will? That's sounding kind of good to me, but let's make sure C and D are wrong. Is it C, a tax imposed on the transfer of property at death? No. I mean, does have something to do with death, but not that. Or D, the legal process of removing a tenant from a property. No, that's eviction. That's summary ejectment is what we call it in this state. There's some other names for it in other states, but that's not what it is either. We know by process of elimination, and because it's the right answer, it's B. Having said that, remember, a lot of this test is also about being not just knowing the information, but making sure you read the question well. And if you read this question and those answer choices too quick, C could kind of sound good. I mean, you see the word death. You're like, oh, death. Okay, that must be it. No. In fact, question answers that are wrong, like this one, they're trying to trick somebody. They're trying to get the person who kind of sort of knows their vocab, but not 100% vocab. You got to be sure you know what you know. Right? You got to know what you know. Don't fall for it, because if you didn't study, you're like, oh, maybe somebody could be going back and forth between B and C. But those of us that know our vocab know the answer is most definitely B. All right. Question 26. A buyer signs a contract to purchase a home. Oh, wait, before I do that, hold on, give me 2 seconds. I told you all that earlier today, as soon as I find this, you had asked me earlier this week to do something on agency, and I did create something for you, Miss Caroline. I hadn't looked at it because it was before I started teaching all day today. So let me see if I can find it. Do I have it? Let's see. Boom, I do. Let me see if it's any good. It's an agency relationship guide. All right, let me send this to my let me save it and send it to my iPad, and I'll show you what it came up with, just so you know. Let's stick it here. Boom, save. And now let me share this with you on my iPad. Share. It's got to be a faster way to do this, but that's okay. Share iPad. Because you wanted to talk about agency, and I want to make sure I go over that because you should be studying this. So, again, I came up with it by I mean, I told AI, I told AI to come up with something to help talk about agency because you all wanted a review. So let's see how we feel about this, shall we? Very nice. It is pretty nice. Agency decoded, navigating real estate relationships. Brum, brum, brum. I mean, that is very serious, is it not? I mean, it got real serious with this one. So do we like what it did? Let's make sure we do. Oh, and I lost y'all to make sure I can see y'all. Boom. There you all. I can see you all again. And I can send this to any of you all. You can email me and be like, Candace, can I have that? I didn't make this. I literally just put it in AI. You are welcome to it. So direct and exclusive representation, single agency, the standard advocate. The agent represents one party exclusively, providing full fiduciary duties to that client. So there's a couple things I could say here. Let me send this to, so I can write on it. No, I need it to open there. Gosh darn it. Open. Boom. There we go. Did it do it? No? Oh, my files today. Boom. That, okay, we'll try that. I don't know what it's doing, but let's try it. The one thing I would say about this is we see that it says the word agent. And I would say, oof, that's terrible. That's just absolutely terrible. There, okay, done. Close, close. Make this stop. Oh, it's a PNG. Well, come on, pull it together. Convert to PDF. Why does it have to be so hard? Boom, there we go. Now I can write on it. The one thing I would say about this is, oh, of course, it's PNG with that thing on it. This word agent. You are not the agent. What they're referring to here is going to be your broker or your brokerage or your BIC if you're in North Carolina. Remember, the client isn't hiring you directly. They're hiring your broker. They're hiring the agency. So when your firm, your brokerage, your broker is only representing just the buyer or just the seller, it becomes very clear who you're working for. That is single agency. You've got dual agency, the Neutral Balancing Act. Keyword here is neutral, right? One agent, and I'm going to go ahead here and say broker, or if you're in North Carolina, the BIC, represents, or South Carolina, we use that term too, represents both sides concurrently. That means in the same transaction. One transaction where there's a house or whatever being bought and sold, and that broker represents both sides. We know this is not necessarily legal in all states. You need to make sure in your state specifically, is this legal? Right? I do know that every single state says if you practice dual agency, you need consent from both parties before doing so, but that's dual agency. If you are in a state where you practice dual agency, that neutral thing means you can't help one and in that way hurt the other. You can't show more favor or, make one hurt over the other. It's like being a parent. So they say, I don't know, I'm not a parent. And I know there's not supposed to be favorites. And what you do for one child, you're not supposed to not do for the other. It's about playing it evenly. And it's very hard to do dual agency well, which is why so many states make it illegal. And it could be against the rules in North Carolina. We'll know in about a month or so. They're changing it. We've got designated dual agency. And sometimes that's just called designated agency. That's where you've got one firm or one broker representing both parties. But then that broker says, hey, person A, why don't you go ahead and you represent the seller? And person B, why don't you represent the buyer? And that broker, that BIC in the middle, stays neutral. So for the client, it's as if they had single agency, but it just so happens that it's actually two agents from two salespeople from the same firm, the same brokerage that have the same broker, right? Everybody or nobody. I see you, Tricks. Yep, exactly. We have the transactional broker, or in some states, if you have this, it's also known as a facilitator. And a lot of times this happens in states where their dual agency is not allowed. The reason some states don't have dual agency is because if you're truly a dual agent and you can't give the full fiduciary services, Are you really their agent? Like, you might ask me a question and I might want to answer it, but if I'm a dual agent, to answer it honestly would be to hurt the other person. So I can't give you all of the fiduciary duties. I can't give you true loyalty. I can't give you true obedience, accounting, disclosure. I can't do all of the things I normally would because that would be hurting the other side. So in those states, they go, no, let's not have dual agency. Let's call it transactional broker or facilitator. I'm not representing either side. You're just paying me to bring this transaction together. I'm brokering a deal. Remember, there are all sorts of brokers out there. There's insurance brokers, there's mortgage brokers. I mean, there's stock brokers. And in all of those cases, the brokering is, hey, I know somebody who has something to sell, and I know somebody who wants to buy that thing. Y'all should pay me for bringing the parties together and making it happen. That is the actual definition of brokering in general. So the transaction broker doesn't represent the buyer. They do not represent the seller. They are just assisting both sides in getting it done, right? Without an agency relationship or fiduciary duties. Now, we do have in some states the very complicated sub-agency, right? And let me draw this out for you to make sure it makes sense. You know that you have ABC Realty and there's a broker. And the relationship between ABC Realty and the client this is where that relationship is. It's with the broker. The client hired the broker or the BIC for this. Now, for a lot of you, you are going to join companies where there could be a broker or a BIC, and then there's like 50 other sub-agents, or I should say 50 other agents, salespeople, just regular old other agents that are in that firm, that are in that company. They didn't hire, the client didn't hire you. They hired an agent of an agent. So this BIC or this broker has a person here. They have somebody here. They have somebody here. They have somebody here. These people are sub-agents. Right? That's the idea of agency. A sub-agent is an agent of an agent. Now, I know that's not quite what we're talking about, but I wanted to teach this because people get confused. Really and truly, when I say, oh, I helped somebody buy a house, they didn't hire me, they hired my broker. I am a sub-agent of my broker. Having said all that, that's not what we're talking about here when we talk about agency here and sub-agency. I just needed to acknowledge it existed because first, before you can get into that type of sub-agency, you needed to have this type of sub-agency. Now, let's go back to this idea that you have ABC's broker and you have this client. And we know they signed an exclusive relationship, whether it's exclusive agency or exclusive right to sell. In some states, what can happen is this house that's owned by the client, let's say this is a listing. This house is owned by the client and there's a XYZ agent. XYZ brought a buyer to see the house. XYZ brought this buyer to see the house. Now, easy would be if this buyer hires XYZ to represent them. In states where it gets complicated, XYZ says, okay, I'm not going to work for the buyer. I'm going to work for the other firm. I know this is so complicated. In some places, This agent who showed the house does not work for the buyer. They work for this other firm, and i.e., they work for the seller. So in that case, the seller has two firms. They have the listing firm that listed or marketed the property, and they have the firm that sold the property, otherwise known as the selling agent. I know that sounds crazy. That's why I did not lead with it. But if you get a question asking about sub-agency, it could be one of two things. It could be that the seller has two brokers. It could be that this broker, ABC, listed the property, and the seller has another broker that sold the property. Both of them owe loyalty to the seller. Nobody owes loyalty to the buyer. Or the question could be talking about, hey, the client hired ABC and all these other people are subagents of that agent. Crazy, right? Y'all, even trying to explain it, I have to go, okay, which one am I talking about? I can tell you this, though, to make it a little clearer. This type of agency where we're talking about the relationship between the one broker and the, what do you all call it, salespeople? That could be called brokerage subagency. And if we're talking about, oh, the seller has two agents, we call this seller subagency. I really think they just trying to get you. Be trying to get you. If you are listening to me talk about this and you've never heard about this down here where there's two seller agents, that means your state probably doesn't practice it, and congratulations to you. But if you are somebody listening to this and at any time in your pre-licensing, they were like, oh, the seller has two agents, then you need to understand the difference between seller subagency and brokerage subagency. And the only thing I can tell you is you have to read from the context clues. Whew. Also, who decided to make it this complicated? Right? Like, why? We couldn't come up with any other words besides subagency? Nobody could come up with another verb for this? I don't know. Okay. So as much as I like this thing, I want you to be careful with this subagency one. Like, let's just put it aside. Every single state, I know you're going to be tested on single agency, dual agency, whether or not it is legal, designated agency, and then transactional broker. Even in North Carolina, where we don't have these, they expect you to know what it is and to know that we don't have them. So that was a lot. Do y'all have questions? Googly go. And Caroline, did that help you? Besides the subagency part, was that helpful? Did that confirm everything you knew about agency? Good. Okay, Val, you said that's good. Yay, I hope so. It's a lot. It is a lot. So again, just be careful. Be careful with subagency. I would almost tell, if I could do this again with AI, I would tell it to leave this out. But if you all want this and want to ignore that part, email me. I will send it to you. And with all of that is 8:04. Let's do one more. I feel like we should do one more question simply because we're supposed to be doing questions. Number 26. A buyer signs a contract to purchase a home. Before closing, the seller dies. Womp womp. What typically happens to the contract? A buyer signs a contract to purchase a home, and obviously the seller agreed. Before closing, the seller dies. What typically happens to the contract? Is it A, the contract is automatically void because one party has died? Is it B, the contract is voidable at the buyer's option because of the death of the seller's death? Is it C, the contract generally remains binding on the seller's estate and the heirs or personal representative must perform? Or is it D, the contract terminates and the earnest money is automatically returned to the buyer? And I see that some of you all said D in the answer choice, but actually it is C. It is actually C. Why? Because think of it this way. If you die and you still owe the mortgage company money, do they just go, don't worry about it. You don't owe us the rest of that $300,000 you borrowed? Absolutely not. You signed a contract, and those contracts, they go past death. Now, if this was agency, you can't represent a dead person. But for a sales contract, yeah, the seller's heirs, unless you made earlier provisions, the seller's heirs are going to have to honor that contract. And if they can't or they don't, they are in breach. So the sales contract binds him or her heirs. Exactly. Agency, death will terminate an agency contract. But if you're talking about a sales contract, most sales contracts, like 99% of them, when we're talking about real estate, if the buyer dies or the seller dies, that person's heirs need to follow through with the contract. Good. And I'm glad you like that question. And it's really important everybody understands this one, right? It is really important. That is the whole point to contracts. You're signing it so that you can tattle. When somebody breaches the contract, you know you can take them to court. You tattle. You're basically saying, hey, judge, this person promised to do XYZ and they didn't. Make it right. Right? So when somebody dies, there's a contract, and the judge will be like, look, that person intended before their death. They promised to do X, Y, and Z. And you, the heir, you need to finish their promises, whether you want to or not, unless it's agency. You said, how do we ask Claude to give me difficult questions like this? I think I have here, I'm just rolling, sorry, hate to scroll like this. Let me just, I asked it. When I asked it to do this, I said, give us hard questions. Give us hard questions. Now, having said that, my Claude, I'm always dealing in real estate. So you can ask your Claude to do it, and that's fine. Or if you want, I can, any of these I'm going on online. Once we go through them, I'll give them to you again if you want to follow through, but just ask it. And if you don't usually ask your AI for real estate questions, be very specific. Hey, can you do the research on what is normally on a real estate exam, nationwide? Please present questions, in the same manner as most real estate tests, and make the difficulty hard. See what it comes up with. Claude is Claude Anthropic? Yeah, Claude is Anthropic because ChatGPT is OpenAI, right? I think so. But yes. And you know what? ChatGPT will do it as well. And so will Gemini. I just happen to like Claude, but we've done questions on these lives where I had it done by Gemini or ChatGPT. It's the practice. It's not, is the question perfect? It's opportunities like this one. I know we didn't do this tonight, but which of the following is an example of a general lien? That gave you a chance to review what's the difference between a general lien and a specific lien. Tonight, we had a question about easements. It ended up being personal easement, but we had a chance to review pertinent easements and all those other things. So it's not about having the perfect question. It's about reviewing. You said ChatGPT grabs answers from the internet very broad. Claude seems to be a little on point. You got to just tell it. Again, I spend a lot of time in all of my AI on real estate related things, but any of them will give you questions. For free. For free, they will give you questions that will work. And with that, boys and girls, I have done about 9 hours of teaching today. So Yes, it has been a long time. I'm going to say goodbye. I will see you all 7 o'clock on Tuesday. 7 o'clock on Tuesday. Yes, Val, I will read your email and I will talk to everybody later. Bye.